Welcome to my channel. (1956) Grand Canyon mid-air collision. It was on June 30, 1956 that Trans World Airlines, TWA2, collided with United Airlines, United 718, over the Grand Canyon National Park. Sadly, all 128 people on board the two planes were killed. There were no survivors. TWA departed Los Angeles Airport at 9:01 the morning of June 30, carrying on board 64 people. It was heading to Kansas City Airport. On board TWA, the captain requested permission to climb to 21,000 feet. He was hoping he could avoid a storm which was starting to form near to his flight path. However, air traffic control denied the request to climb to 21,000 feet, so the captain then requested 1,000 top clearance, which meant he could fly 1,000 feet above the clouds. This time the request was approved. Meanwhile, United 718 had departed Los Angeles International Airport at 9:04 that morning. On board were 53 people, all heading to Chicago Midway Airport. The captain on board was Captain Shirley, who climbed to 21,000 feet. Eventually both TWA2 and United 718 would be flying in uncontrolled airspace. All was going well, when the two aircraft made their way to the Grand Canyon. Both aircraft were flying at the same altitude, at almost the same speed. It is believed that the pilots of the aircraft saw each other just seconds before impact, and it must have been then when the pilots knew that they were going to collide with one another. It is believed that they did try and take evasive action to try to avoid each other, but by now it was too late and a collision was set to happen. It is believed that United 718 left wing clipped TWA2's vertical stabilizer and then struck the fuselage, causing the tail assembly to break away. This meant that the aircraft lost complete control, and then entered into a near vertical dive. Sadly, the aircraft crashed into the Grand Canyon at what is believed to be around 477 miles per hour. It disintegrated upon impact, leaving no survivors on board. Meanwhile, United 718 was no longer able to sustain lift, and any forms of recovery now was out of the question. Again, sadly, the aircraft crashed into the Grand Canyon and also disintegrated upon impact, leaving no survivors on board. At the time, no one knew that the aircrafts had crashed, and it was only when no further contact was made by either aircraft that the aircrafts would be reported as missing, and a search for both aircrafts would begin. Neither aircraft had black boxes. It was two brothers who operated Grand Canyon Airlines who were flying over the area and saw black smoke and reported this. They were unsure what the black smoke was from, but it was soon realized that this was where the wreckage of the two aircraft may be. Sadly, however, those on the ground were unable to recover any of the bodies intact, and positive identification was not possible. Unfortunately, they didn't have today's advances in DNA to help identify the bodies. It was July 9, 1956 that a mass funeral was held for the victims of TWA2's flight, at the canyon's south rim. 29 unidentified victims of United 718 were placed at the Grand Canyon Pioneer Cemetery. 26 people of the TWA's flight were placed in a mass grave at Citizens Cemetery at Flagstaff, Arizona. The investigation into the crash would finally determine that the pilots had not seen one another at the time, and were unable to avoid a collision in time. Weather was also determined as a factor of the crash. It was also thought that the decision by Captain Gandy of TWA to fly 1,000 top may also have been the catalyst for the disaster. However, we will never fully know what happened that day, as all those on board perished and are not here to tell their story. Years would pass after the crash before most of the wreckage was finally removed from the crash site. However, some of the wreckage still remains at the crash site today and was never removed. The accident site is now a National Historic Landmark. Our hearts go out to those on board United 718 and TWA2, and to those families who they left behind. May you always be remembered. Thank you for watching and learning about this tragic event. Please subscribe to my channel to view other tragic events throughout history.